Greg, thanks so much for joining us on the Daily Aus this morning.
No problem. It's good to be here.
Let's say that I'm the economy and I come to you and you're a GP and I sit down and I want to just kind of have a chat about how my general health is. What would your assessment be?
Oh, geez. I mean, you're all over the shop, really. Parts of you are looking really trim and good, and other parts, I'm wondering if you've been overindulging or you haven't done any exercise for a while. I mean, so, if you look at the real big picture things, you think about unemployment. Well, unemployment's really good at the moment, 3.8%. That's kind of astonishing, really. It's amazing that we've been under 4% for so long. So that's really good. Inflation, which is how much prices are rising each year. The latest figures have got that going up by 3.6%. That's coming down. About 18 months ago, it was over 7%, which was far too fast. Now it's coming down. It's slowing a bit in its fall, but it's 3.6% is livable, I think.
Right.
Still
so you're okay. You're okay with how things are going on the inflation side.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, we got to get it under 3% as fast as possible," and I'm like, look, I can live with inflation above 3% so long as it is slowly, steadily coming down. I'd rather that than going hard and trying to get it under 3% and risking, a recession or something like that. So,
right.
But if you look at the overall economy, the GDP figure, which measures everything we produce in the economy, everything you spend, that's pretty crap at the moment, to be blunt. It's really low. It's this sense that actually the economy is not performing all that great. And it's kind of a bit astonishing that actually unemployment has kept so low, because if you look at how weak the economy is growing each year, normally that would be associated with unemployment going up fairly quickly. And right. The fact that it's remained steady kind of is some good news. But certainly on the inflation front, I think, again, it's this case of, you look good, but actually if we take a bit of an X-ray and have a look at what's going on there, I'm seeing a few dark patches and things I would not like to see. And that really gives across the problem with inflation and cost of living rises at the moment is a lot of where people, or a lot of the things that are rising fast are in the areas that people can't avoid. They're really, and rents is just the classic. Rental prices are growing really fast at the moment. While overall inflation might be looking okay and getting back to where the Reserve Bank would like it, the cost of what we call essential items, they're still rising pretty strongly. Like in the last year, they didn't go up by 3.6%, they went up by 4.2%. I can understand why people are a little bit confused, because they'll see signs of, things are going well, things are going down, and they're like, but I'm still getting it in the neck, I'm still really struggling, and that's quite understandable.
And I think it's in that kind of difference in what we see being reported versus what's actually happening in the hip pocket of a lot of our listeners that really confuses young Australians especially. And you wrote a piece for The Guardian last week and you talked a lot about those particular issues that are particularly relevant to our young people. So rent prices and HECS. You made a really interesting comment in the piece. You said this is not how the system was meant to work. What did you mean by that?
Hello, I'm James and I produce the video you're watching. If you're enjoying what you're watching, we'd love it if you considered subscribing and checking us out on our other platforms. It'd really help in getting the word out about what we're doing here at TDA. Thanks very much, and now back to the deep dive.
Well, that's sort of especially relating to that HECS and HELP debt. I mean, the system was devised on this whole proviso that, if you go to uni and you get a degree, you're probably going to earn more than the average person, certainly more than the person who doesn't go to uni. So as a result, your capacity and your likelihood of repaying that debt is going to be a lot better. You're going to be able to do it. And so we'll start you repaying it when you get to around 90% of average earnings. Now, what you have is a system where the debt, you're starting with is much, much bigger, quite significantly so. and you're starting to repay it when you're just earning a little bit over minimum wage. That certainly is not how the system was devised. The system was devised that you'd reduce your debt each year out of your good-sized income. Now you're not even being able to repay it because you're paying a huge amount of debt out of a fairly small income. It's really screwed up.
And so I think what I'm hearing from you in terms of this this quite nice metaphor of a health check-in for our economy is that we're okay, we're stable, things are looking, fine on the X-ray machine. There are particular ailments that are affecting younger populations more. And now we have the budget on the 14th of May, and that's kind of then to continue the metaphor where we go and get told what booster shots we're getting this year and what pills we need to take. What are you expecting Jim Chalmers to say on the 14th?
What he's dealing with is, we've got a slowing economy, and normally if you've got an overall economy that's growing as pathetically as Australia's economy is, normally in that type of situation you'd be expecting the government to really be spending big or investing big, trying to get the economy going. One of the risks with that at the moment is we do have a pretty tight labour market. There's low unemployment. And so if you put out a lot of money and a lot of spending, that might drive up inflation even more.
So that's the danger with something like a stimulus payment, for example.
I don't think there's going to be any stimulus payments as such. What they might be looking at is subsidising things, actually lowering the cost of childcare, reducing the cost, in effect, reducing the prices of things. We saw this happen during the pandemic. There was a period where childcare essentially became free. And that actually had an impact on inflation. It reduced inflation because the cost of childcare is a part of the inflation bundle of goods where they calculate, and if the price of something goes to zero, well, that actually reduces inflation. The prices have been coming up from overseas, that there has been a lot of that prices sort of imported. Companies over the past 2 years have been taking advantage of the supply side issues to raise prices more. We certainly saw that with groceries. It's not happening so much now, mainly because they have got a lot of attention on them. But also, as we see in the last inflation figures, the biggest drivers of inflation were rents. And it's not like, people want to rent more. It's just, landlords will be able to take advantage to raise rents. Education costs, again, it's not a case of, universities and high schools and everything are dealing with lots of people suddenly want to be educated, and so they're able to rise costs. That's not driven by demand. Healthcare. Again, when you're feeling flush with cash, you don't suddenly think, I want to go to the GP and the hospital. That's driven by other cost factors. And then the final biggest driver of inflation was insurance. And again, you don't, when you get a wage rise, you don't think, I'll add a bit more to my car insurance or anything like that. If you're Jim Chalmers and you're looking at that, you're thinking, okay, the big issue here is making sure I'm not spending a lot of money on things that are going to force there to be a competition for workers.
Yeah.
And so he really needs to think about some investment that actually is going to grow the economy. I think for youth, the obvious thing for HECS is do something about this indexation. It's not actually going to help people's cost of livings as such, because
and that can change with a change of policy, right?
Yeah, your repayments are based on your income, so it doesn't. Yeah. But what it can do is if they either maybe capped in, they could cap indexation. They could say HECS and HELP will go up by whatever the CPI formula is, but we'll cap it at 3% because that's what we're targeting for inflation. So 3%, they could do that, or they could just get rid of indexation completely. That'd cost about $1.5 billion a year, which sounds like a lot of money until you hear the government talk about how they're investing $50 billion in defence and no one bats an eyelid. And we'd also expect, given just what we've seen over the last week, I would suggest if they don't have anything to do with domestic violence, they're going to look very stupid. So I'd expect something there as well.
Greg, thank you for that very thorough health check on the economy. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate you talking us through the big issues and how to make sense of this world around us.
No worries, Sam. Really good to chat.